You are kneeling in the dirt. Someone you love is lying in front of you, and only a moment ago they were breathing, and now they are not. You shake them by the shoulder, gently at first, then harder. You say their name. You say it again, louder. You press your hand flat against their chest, and you wait to feel it rise, the way it has risen every day of their life. It does not rise. You lean down and put your ear close to their mouth, listening for the warm breath that is always there. There is nothing. This is the first time you have ever watched this happen to someone who matters, and your mind has nowhere to put it. 40,000 years ago, this was the hardest thing a human being could face, because no one had ever sat you down and explained what death even was. And here is the strange part. You do not have a word for it. Your people have language. You have names for the animals, for the seasons, for the bright wandering stars. But death is so total, so impossible, that the mind simply refuses to name the thing it is seeing. So you do the only thing that feels right. You speak to them in a low voice, telling them quietly to get up. You tuck the fur back around their shoulders so they will not be cold. You bring them water and hold it to their lips and watch it run uselessly down their chin. For hours, maybe for a whole day and a whole night, you sit beside the body of someone you love, and you refuse, with everything in you, to believe what your own eyes keep telling you. Every grieving human who has ever lived began in exactly this place. But the body will not let you pretend for long. It grows cold under your hands, the warmth you have known your entire life draining out of it slowly, from the fingers inward. Then it grows stiff, and the limbs will not bend, and the face you love settles into something that is no longer quite their face. And with a kind of horror that has no name yet, you finally begin to understand. The person is gone, the thing lying here in front of you is not them anymore, and now you are holding a problem that no creature before you has ever had to solve. What do you do with the body of someone you loved? A wolf would sniff once and walk away. A deer would step over it and keep grazing. But you cannot walk away. Something deep and ancient inside, you simply will not let your feet move from this spot. So you do something quietly revolutionary. You decide to stay. You and the others draw in close and form a ring around the body. You wave the flies away from the still face. You drive the scavengers back when their eyes catch the firelight at the edge of camp. You gather more wood and build the fire up high beside them, and you keep it burning all through the long night, exactly the way you would sit up beside someone who is only sleeping and feverish. This single act, this refusal to abandon the dead and leave them out in the open like a fallen animal, is one of the oldest and most human things we have ever found in the ground. Long before farms, long before villages, long before a single mark was ever scratched into stone, people were already sitting up through the night to guard their dead. But you are also afraid, and you would be a fool not to be. Something has happened to this body that you do not understand, and a quiet voice in your mind whispers that whatever took them might still be near, might be catching, might come for you next. This fear is real, and it is old. It is why, in so many of the graves we dig up, the dead were carefully bound, or weighed down under heavy flat stones, or laid facing away from the camp. Not out of cruelty, but out of a tangle of love and terror that any human alive would feel. You want to honor them, and you want to be safe from the mystery of what they have become, both at the very same time. And so the first rituals on earth are born out of this exact knot in the chest. The desperate need to do something, anything, that feels like the right thing to do. And then the grief comes, and it does not arrive as a thought in your head. It comes up through the body. You will watch it tear through the others, and you will feel it tear through you. People sink to the ground and rock slowly back and forth. They wrap their own arms around themselves and squeeze, as if holding their own body together. They make sounds that are not words at all, low and cracked and helpless, the same raw sounds a grieving person makes today in any city on earth. A mother holds a small, still child against her chest and will not let anyone come near enough to take it. An old man rests one hand on his dead brother's shoulder and simply sits there, unmoving, while the sun crosses the entire sky. No one ever taught a single one of them how to do this. The grief simply arrived, already complete, exactly the same in them as it lives in you. Then your people do the thing that quietly changes everything. You begin to dig. With sharpened sticks with the hard edges of flat stones, with your own bare hands, you tear open the stubborn ground. It is brutally slow, and your fingers split, and your back burns, and still you keep going, all of you taking turns, because the thought of leaving them up on the surface has become unbearable. And when the ground is finally open, you lift the body together as gently as you have ever lifted anything in your life, and you lower it down, not thrown, not dropped like a carcass. Laid down with care, very often curled onto its side with the knees drawn up toward the chest, in the shape of a person sleeping, in the very same shape a baby holds before it is ever born. We have found these graves. We have found them on nearly every continent on Earth. Humans were doing this 40,000 years ago and far longer, deliberately by hand, with a tenderness you can still read in the bones. And in many of these graves, you find something stranger and more beautiful still. The dead were painted. Before the earth was closed back over them, the body was covered in red ochre, a rich rust colored powder ground from soft stone, until the skin and the hair and the ground beneath them all glowed a deep, living red. We find this again and again, from Europe to Africa to Australia, across tens of thousands of years. Why red? Almost certainly because red is the color of blood, the color of life itself, the warm color that had just finished draining out of them. You are painting the life back onto someone who has lost it. You are coloring them, head to foot, in the one shade that means alive, as if to send them off into the long dark, already carrying a little of the warmth that they are going to need. And you do not lay them in the earth empty-handed. You reach for the things that mattered, and one by one you place them in the grave beside the body. A favorite hand axe, the stone worn smooth by years of their grip, a string of pierced shells or animal teeth they wore around their neck and were quietly proud of, a piece of good meat set down carefully near the hands, food for a journey. In one grave found high in a mountain cave, the body had been laid down on a thick bed of wildflowers, whole armfuls of them, carried up from the valley below and arranged with care beneath the dead. Stop for a moment and feel how impossibly tender that is. You are giving flowers to someone who can no longer smell them. You are giving sharp tools to hands that can no longer hold them, and good food to a mouth that can no longer eat. Because somewhere in the human heart, in that exact moment, a brand new idea has just been born. And it may be the single most important idea our entire species has ever had. Because to bury someone with gifts for a journey, you have to do something that no other animal on Earth can do. You have to imagine the unimaginable. You have to picture them still going somewhere, still needing things, still somehow themselves, in a place you cannot follow and cannot see. You have to invent a whole future for a person who has no future left. And this, right here in the dirt, is where all of it begins. Every heaven that anyone has ever hoped for. Every ancestor believed to be watching quietly from the stars. Every prayer ever whispered into the dark above a grave. Every stubborn, beautiful refusal to accept that love just stops the very instant the breathing stops. All of it traces back to this, to a grieving human on their knees, pressing flowers and tools into the ground for a journey they desperately need to be real. And then you have to do the hardest part of the whole thing. You have to stand back up. You push the loose earth back over them with your own two hands, handful after handful, until the ground is closed and the face you love is gone from your sight forever. And you turn and you walk back to a fire that is now missing someone who sat beside it every single night of your life. For the rest of your own short years, you will carry this person folded up inside you. You will point a small child up toward a certain star and tell them this person's name. You will say that name out loud around the fire on purpose, so that the name does not sink into the ground and die along with the body. This is the other thing your people quietly invent at the edge of that grave. Memory held on to fiercely as a form of love. A way to keep someone walking beside you for years after they are gone. That grave is still in the ground somewhere tonight, 40,000 years later. The flowers rotted away within a single season. The red ochre faded to a faint stain. The name was forgotten almost at once, spoken for a few short generations, and then lost for good. But the act itself was never forgotten, not for a single day, because you are still doing it. When you stand at a graveside today, when you carry flowers you know perfectly well the dead cannot smell, when you speak a name aloud into a quiet room and feel, somehow, against all reason, that they can still hear you, you are doing the exact same thing your ancestor did at the lip of that very first grave. We have been refusing to simply let go of each other for 40,000 years. It is one of the oldest things we have ever done, and it may be the most human thing we will ever do.